Good evening, everyone. We are now at the 19th day of our daily challenge, and for today we have a beverage prompt. So let me just show you a very pretty beverage. See, this jar, this mug of why the words evading me? This cup of bright liquid looks somewhat like a cocktail or a mocktail, something that's orangey, probably with a little bit of strawberry, or could be I'm trying to think what else. Cranberry, yes, cranberry. It could be a whole lot of things. We don't know. I don't know if it's a cocktail or a mocktail, whether there's alcohol, but we are here to paint, and so it's not going to make any difference what this item is. We're just going to look at these lovely colors, cherries on the top, the beautiful orange slice, and maybe some parts of this the glass itself. This base of the glass is going to be a little challenging. So let's get to it. Let's see how it will turn out with watercolor pencils, right? Okay, off we go. Starting with a pencil sketch. I get the feeling I'm going to end up making too big glass, so I'm just going to be a little careful not to make it too large. Slight alteration. The sketch is definitely challenging now, especially this one, because symmetry is often an issue. So go slow with your sketch. Don't be very hasty in making your lines, and don't make your lines too abrupt. Don't make them short lines. Try to make your lines as continuous as you can. Steady. I'm looking at this and I'm trying to I still feel we need an adjustment here. Could be a little lower, a little outward, and this way. That's the feeling I get. So one more alteration. Let's see. Let's do one side and see whether it's starting to look more proportionate. I think, yeah, this definitely looks nicer. Does that look okay? Alright, not worrying too much. Let's bring in the base so it doesn't go down straight. It almost instantly turns this way, right? Then we have the base of the glass, which is now I don't like this base shape too much. I'm going to adjust it so that it doesn't look very flat, which means we need to make it a little bit more oval. See over here, a little bit more oval, and then you should be okay. Yeah. There is some amount of thickness to the base, but I'm not showing it here in pencil. I'm going to directly use my brush, and when I use the brush, I'm going to show the double line. Okay, so there is a lot of here. This base is definitely not looking very, what shall I say, like it has depth or thickness, glass thickness, which is missing. We're going to take care of that as we paint. Okay, Now, one more thing I would like to point out is that there is a double line over here too, which we need to show when we paint. Okay, a double line over here. Now inside we need to start. I'm just marking my spaces. Okay, now a semicircle. Right, a semicircle. In fact, a little more than a semicircle, because this is going to come in here, and this little bit is going to go into the glass. At this point, we have another. I'm trying to draw this rim properly. Let's draw the rim and then see how to place the cherry. So the cherries are almost suspended on it, because I'm assuming there's a stick going through the cherry, or something like a toothpick, but a large one. So let's draw the cherry as we see it and not worry about the stick or anything. Just draw that cherry in, and on top one more cherry which is a little better shaped, a little bit like this. Yeah, that's better. Bottom cherry, now it looks rounder because the stem, or the little bit protruding out, is on the other side. Here we have something going up. I'm just going to leave it this way. I can't see it, it's not in the picture. Now there is another orange over here which I don't want to draw, because it seems suspended, or rather when the photograph is taken, it seems fuzzy, which gives me the impression that something else is happening behind the glass. So I'm leaving it. I'm not going to include it in my illustration. Next, I need to show the frothy mark. There's a frothy mark over here, okay, where the beverage has a bit of whitish froth. I need to make sure not to color this in with yellow and orange. And so the glass being transparent, we will see a little bit of the orange going in. See, small details, but they matter in the grand scheme to get as much as you can correctly. Now inside of this lemon or orange, you can make a curvy line. Okay, there's rind which we want to maintain, and a few sections that we just want to indicate with lines like this. Good enough. Yeah. Hello. What else shall we have here? Now there are some ice cubes in between. I'm not drawing these out in pencil because I do not want those hard lines to form. Instead of that, what I'm going to do is, as I put color here, I will lift up some color so that patches in between will look a little white, indicating that there must be something there. Okay, let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, it's alright. It's a lesson for next time. Done. Now I go in with my colors. For today, I will be using the Faber-Castell watercolor pencils, as I have been for the last 19 days. Pulling out the colors I want. Definitely the reds and the orange and the yellow. So that's all the ones I have. I may even take a lighter yellow this time. Okay. Besides this, I will need black. So my black has kind of lost its point. So I won't take the black. I'll take the gray. Let's work with the gray today. If you need the black, I can keep it at the side. That should be enough. Okay, done. Keep this aside because we can deal with this later. That's my color, right? Let's get going. So looking at, I'm going with the very flat set of colors, the base colors that I always call these the base colors. So this orange is nice, but maybe we can start with a little bit of a darker orange here. See, this is the darker orange. Along the rim, it stands out. Droplets on the glass. Okay, I can't see too many clear droplets. But if you want to see droplets, I do have a video in my shorts which has only droplets, just sitting and practicing a lot of droplets, so you can check that out. Now very lightly, very gently, I put in this deep orange color in here, very light touch. The reason I'm light with it is because I want to go in with a lighter orange. See, a little bit of lighter orange, and then a little bit of yellow. I want to end it with yellow. I want this yellow color to be very visible. Okay, in between I could probably make those lines in between, but we'll see what to do. I will also give this light orange color, a little bit of this color here. I think that should be enough. Good enough. Doesn't look great, I know, but let's get on. Then we have the reds. So my red again needs a little bit of sharpening. Now where is the shine? The shine is somewhere here. It is some sort of a shape like this, and here it is quite straightforward, right? So everything else can be colored in with this red color. I'll also put a little bit underneath over here, just a wee bit, to indicate that cherry can be seen from underneath. Okay, changing the red to a darker red, which is pinkish for shading. Just putting that on this side. Same thing over here. Oops. Stock. Good enough. Next, we have yellow. I'll start with a light yellow. Okay, so all over here below the froth, this is all frothy, we'll have a light yellow. Moving into a gamboge, this is a gamboge color. Right, and as we go down, we change to orange. The outlines can be a little darker if you like. It will take away the pencil marking that is still a little dark. Okay, now this portion of the glass has a bit of a shine, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken it on this side. When I say shine, there is light on this side, right? So go very gentle with the color here, because we're going to need to keep it light. And you can darken your color on this side. In fact, if you feel you want a little bit of yellow, you can overlap it with a little bit of yellow, just to make it brighter. Okay, now darker orange. Then we have this one, which is like reddish orange or orangish red, whichever way you look at it. So I'm going to darken it here. So shading looks quite pretty because of all these colors already, and it has a pencil color quality about it, quite nice because of the gradient effect. Finally, I've taken the pinkish color and darken this portion. Alright, so over here, that's it. Very, very grainy, and because I'm using cold press watercolor paper, it does have some tooth to the paper itself, so the pencil color is going to look quite what shall I say, uneven with these little lines. Then comes the gray. With the gray, I see gray over here, so I'm going to put it in as it is. Same over here, but less, little less on the outline. Then there is definitely some grayish color here, more on the left than the right. Some gray on this portion. So there are gaps, and you should try and maintain those gaps. Right? And then you have these ring shapes because of the way the light is falling. Some bit of darker gray here. In fact, there is some red reflected over here, which I'm going to just ignore for now, because that would be another exercise altogether. Okay, now I'm thickening my glass at the bottom with a little bit of gray, and this detail, that's it. Yeah. Now I also see that gray over here very gently, and I see a little bit of that gray over here before the froth begins. That's it. Done. With this, I stop my colors, keep them aside, and let's get to the wash. With an average, a medium-sized brush, I think this is size 4 or 6. We can begin with the cherry. I call it a cherry, an orange with the orange, and let's start with this border, the light color. Just wetting it. Leave that be. Let's go to the cherries, where we apply a thin bit of paint here on this side, lightest portion. Then move inward. Now, you will not see the definition I'm talking about, like the cherry, one cherry and the other, because it is not well defined at this point. When we add more detail, we can add some darkness there. Now the light colors of the water itself. And here, while I apply this light color, while I apply water over the light color, remember I told to talk to you about those ice particles or ice cubes. What am I saying? Ice particles, ice cubes. Ice cubes. You're going to come, and while the paint is wet, try and get those ice cubes to be visible with the picking up of paint. So this is lifting technique. Unlike watercolor itself, with the pencil, what's going to happen is you're going to have to rub your brush several times over the paper before that the pigment actually wakes up and does things. So this is something we don't do with watercolor as such, making it, running your brush so many times. Okay, now quickly clean the brush and let's lift some ice particles, ice cubes. Oh my, ice cubes at certain places here. Clean your brush and don't let any remnant color come in at this point. Okay. Squarish shape or slightly crooked, something that indicates that there is lightness of color. See, clean it off, lift, clean, lift, clean, lift, clean. Then your brush will need to be washed. Again, lift, clean, lift, clean. So this is the kind of action you will need to apply. Okay, now that that's done, let's go to this portion. This should be a nice light color, a light orangish color. We will deepen it, but for now, light orange. Right? Finally, down to the glass. I have to change my brush probably at this point. I'm being a little ambitious, trying to go in with a fat brush, but let's see. Blend, smudge the color a little bit. Leaving the watercolor pencil marks as they are, that is dry, without touching it with water, makes the line quite bright, quite dark. So when you touch it to water, it will light. I can do the same activity here, where there's very little paint, just a little bit. I have put gray over there. It's probably not visible, but it is there. Done. Now comes the interesting part. This is my palette. I've been using it for the last so many days. So I'm going to keep this palette here. I'm going to get some colors moving. One color is my orange. I know it's very small at the moment, but oh, it's not going to work. Okay, I forgot my cutter, so let me just look for a cutter. There you go. If you want a lot more pigment, you have to shave off some of this wood, right? I'm just going to shave it off here at the side. I know you can't see this. That's because I'm being very cautious with the blade. See this? I'm trying to get to that pigment. Very precious. In a watercolor pencil, very, very precious. There you go. See? So yes, a very tedious part of watercolor pencils, for sure. You don't have to do any such thing with watercolor, so just very convenient. But I remind everybody, there's no spill with watercolor pencils. You can take them where you want, sharpen them when you want, take just the amount of pigment you want. So some flexibility, I guess, if you think about that. Okay, let's pull out a little bit of pigment. 1, 2, 3, maybe a few, 4, 5 times should be more than enough. Yeah, that should be enough. That's orange. Now I already have red from yesterday. I'm going to just activate that. It's not difficult to activate. So I'll drop in water, 1 or 2 drops, to wake up the paint. And even though this is tedious, I quite enjoy seeing how dark the color turns out. See, the dissolving of the pigment. Please be patient with this. Don't be in a hurry, because you want those particles to dissolve. You definitely want them to dissolve, right? Have they all dissolved? Just look around, twirl it around, you will be able to tell. See, I have one over here. Working that through. There. Now while it's still wet, let me get back to this and start putting in this bright color. And as I put it in, instead of going over this line, I just leave a little space to show that, the separations, the triangular separations here. There. Right? So few gaps is it's a nice thing to do. Okay, coming to the next part. I have to keep looking at my picture because the reference is always there. Next is over here. We can put in a little bit of shading, mild shading at certain places. So for example, bring in a little bit of this orange color the under the ice crystals, ice cubes. Crystals, what am I calling them? Particles, what did I really am not getting the term. Very distracting to talk and paint. Okay, so this deepens the color in general. Pass it on downward, and that what looks like ice cubes starts to stand out. I'll put a little bit over here at the border because I need it a little darker here, and then I will activate the red or the reddish that I made. This is going to be a little bright, so be careful with this. Start with the lower part, right? And as the paint in your brush starts to get lighter, you can start going a little higher. Put in that dark color here. At this point, just be a little watchful. We need to have some little bit of orange. See, blend it. I find the blending of thick paint a little challenging with watercolor pencils, just a wee bit. Now while this is still wet, consider taking a little bit of black and just running it along the border of your glass, just a wee bit. See, if it's bothering you, just blend it with a little bit of red or orange paint so that it doesn't become very dark. There you go. See, just blend it. All right, now I feel like I could show a shine on this portion over here. So let's clean the brush a bit and just pick up a little bit of paint over here. Just a little bit, and pick it up with a clean brush. Soften it. Yeah. Now I'm starting to feel that the top is a little too light, but we can leave that. Don't get into too much of detail. Let's just leave this be. Next, with a small brush. Now I need to change brushes. I'm not going to get the same detail if I don't change. So size 0, 00 or 0, I'm not sure. I've got to check this. With this size, let's take a little bit of orange and watch me do this. I'm just taking like a drop of orange, okay, and a drop of this reddish pink color, and into that I put 1 drop of water, so it becomes really light, super light. Can you see how light it is? Now once it's become this light, you could touch it on the surface over here at a few places and a little bit here. Clean the brush and just blend it in. It gives the frothy portion a slight hue of orange. Now I know you can't probably see this on the camera, but it is there, and I'll just hold it a little closer so you can see a slight tinge. Okay, that being done, you can now go in with a little bit of dark red. Now I need red, so I'm going to have to sharpen my pencil. Let's keep this to dry. Sharpen the pencil a bit. I need my red color. Oops. You don't want that wood going in. I am told there are some new brands of watercolor pencils which do not have all the wood, so it's a little eco, I don't want to say eco-friendly, but a little, there's a little bit of care taken not to use extra wood, which is a thing because the wood is getting shaved most of the time, right? So if we can think of an alternative that won't require so much, that's a big thing. So, but the pigment is very much there, the lead is there. So that's my shaving off there. Oops. Okay, now let's just take some off here. I'm trying not to mix it with the earlier red because in case I have contaminated it with some brown color, which I feel I have, I would like to get back my pure reddish color. So let's just leave it at this corner where I can keep it more red as possible, as red as possible. Okay, done. See this? Now take a little bit of it, don't make it too dark. We'll dissolve the rest when we want it, but right now we don't need too much of it. Bring the paper here. This cleaner red color is going to be applied at a few places. So one place is here at the base. So right under here there is a small white patch and then a little bit of red. So go easy with the line, not too dark. You can apply this red onto the border here as well. That will make the black subdued. It will just make the red look like a darker red. See? So move your brush around, let that get light, and we can lift off a little bit of this color because I think I've applied it too dark. Let me just, yeah, it's a very fine detail. You have to be very careful with this. Now we also see that color somewhere here, just a little bit, and we can use our red. Now let's get in with a little more deep reddish color. Okay, so patiently swirl, 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 swirl around till you have nice concentrated pigment and particles. The little shavings have to dissolve. So let's just dissolve them nicely. And with this, I'm going to darken this portion of my cherry. Same thing here, darken this, and as a result, the two cherries will start to separate. Okay, there is a slight light sliver over here, slight shading. And I think my earlier red really lightened a lot, so I'm just going to, with the leftover paint, just create this shade. Okay, done. Now on to this portion here. I think the middle portion here needs a little bit of very light shade of red. So what I'm going to do is clean my brush here, right here, and after cleaning it with this very light color, I will just go over this section just a wee bit, give it a slightly reddish tinge, but you have to be very careful. This can go wrong. It can go horribly wrong actually, because it may turn into red, and an orange doesn't have red. So you really need to be careful how much of the red you are adding. You are adding red on top of the orange to make it a deeper orange, if that makes sense, right? So don't add so much red that the orange has now turned into red. You just want it to be deeper. See? And now my favorite color, which is black. Black is already here, so I'm going to clean my brush, activate that black. See? And we are going to have to use it in all sorts of consistencies, light consistency, dark consistency, lots of consistencies. So let's look for the darkest. The darkest is here at the base. Okay, so this is a safe place to apply your first bit of black and not worry if it is too dark. So it is quite dark. Okay, I can see it is quite dark. I can see one dark line here, but don't worry too much. Just put that line in. Then there is something out here which is a little dark. There is something reflecting here. So do all the darkest portions so that you can figure out what you want to lighten next. So let's lighten this up now. Now that the darkest is over, lighten it a bit. And with the lighter color, let's go into the next section. So somewhere here, clean your brush. If you need to lift paint. Okay, lighter portion again. Let's go in here. This is definitely a little darker. Spread it out. See? On the other side, there is a nice thin line here. Then we have a thin line here going around. See? Now the thickness of that base has come in. Now there are so many lines over here, we can't possibly draw all of them, so we are going to just put in a few, whatever you can see. I can see some here, I can see here a little bit, just dashes. It's already looking a bit dark, so maybe we can stop faster than slower. Let's just get stop with too much of detail. One line here, and that's it. Let's just see. Okay, stop. Go on to the top section. I want to put in a little bit of detail on the rim. There is a rim here, a very thin one with a thin line. Same here, a very thin rim. Okay, inside here, two lines because I see two, the thickness of the rim showing. Okay, and then there is some gray. To accept that there is some over here in this space before the froth starts, the frothy portion. Yeah, and even in the frothy portion, if you don't clean your black and you just take a little bit of the red, this portion is a wee bit darker, so put in a few dots of even orange, few dots. Clean your brush nicely and just spread out this with your brush. So now you can see that this part is just a wee bit darker than this frothy portion. And I should have probably erased my pencil because my pencil is now going to leave these marks, which is sad. I should not have had so many marks. And then nonetheless, I'm going to shave in some yellow just to see if I can get some of those pencil marks out. So for that, I need to definitely put in some yellow paint at this point. Okay, over here. And this is a good idea because then it gives our yellow a little bit of some quality, about it, some kind of droplets, or not droplets, I want to say as if there is something happening in the liquid here. Yeah. Taking a little bit of the orange, a little bit of pink, making that light color, and doing the same thing over here, making some dots, and let them dry. Let those dots dry. Done. I could put 2 cherries at the bottom, but I think I've spent enough time doing these. But I am very keen on doing one part of the picture, and that is, oh, look at that, splatter. Common thing that happens with watercolor is a splatter like this. Okay. Last thing we want to add, I'm very curious, is to add this straw. There is a thin, now I think I'm drawing this very dark, so it ought to be light, gentle color, a straw here and one right after it over here. Right, now to make the straw look a little interesting, take a little bit of gray that we have on the palette here and apply that gray at the edge of the straw here. Okay, so let's apply a little bit of gray here at the edge of the straw. Now let it dry. So while it's drying, I'm just looking for any sections that need a little bit of lift. I feel like we can add a small line here of plain water, rub it a few times, clean your brush, and just pick up that section of paint. You see that? We've got a line. Now if that line needs to be followed up here, we apply water. I'm doing this again. A little bit of water, run it a few times, clean your brush and lift. See that? Lifting is so nice to add a little bit of shine, a little bit of whiteness, which is not white but still white. I don't know how best to explain that. That's it. Okay, now that this is dry, let's go in with a little bit of pink. Do you know that the color is actually a bright pink, and I want to show it to you right now, so you understand that it is pink. Look at this. See that straw here? See the pink? So we're going to go and look for a pink color just to add that straw. Pink color I have is a lovely one. I have this and I have this. So maybe this is a better one. It's more pink, less purple. All you need to do is make these horizontal markings. I mean, not horizontal, slanting marks. What am I saying? Horizontal. Slanting marks parallel to each other like this. Okay? And more or less equidistant, of course. The same thing with this one. Okay, then color in the outer part of only certain sections. And color the inner part. Same thing here, outer part, inner part, outer part, inner part, outer part, inner part. I know it looks rather funny. Now comes the part where we wet it. So wet this portion. See? Wet the bottom. And simply move your brush upwards and downwards. It will very naturally, the portion that was not colored in with the pink is going to be a little lighter. And that's exactly the effect we want, a little lightness in the middle. See? Isn't that cute? So that's it. We just added that a little bit of shading, and it looks really nice. So we are now done with day 19. of 31. Not bad. We have 12 days left. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye bye.